sometimes the interpreter will say, I'm here to, it's my responsibility. Okay, it's important as the interpreter you say that it's your responsibility and you facilitate the situation. And things can be misunderstood and the point may be missed. If the parents can sign, they'll be feeding information.
So what happens at the IEP meeting is that often a parent will sign, the interpreters then back off and do nothing. You still have a responsibility to monitor what's happening at the IEP meeting, making sure that that deaf child has access to all the information, while at the same time not minimizing what the parents are trying to do.
All right, moving on to prelingual and postlingual. Do you guys know what that means?
They should know. Should know.
The prelingual means that was your first language, you were born deaf, and it's inherent in you. Postlingual, you were born here and you first used spoken English and then learned
Yes.
ASL. Okay, and sometimes these individuals prefer to speak themselves. And they might not realize it's clear, but it's not clear. And sometimes they use both and it overlaps.
I'm just going to help them understand what you're trying to get at. She's explaining what interpreters will face and what you need to be aware with these different deaf individuals. And so you're going to encounter someone who was born prelingually deaf. Someone who's postlingually deaf may speak for themselves, but you still have the responsibility as an interpreter. If the hearing person's like, I don't understand, or they're not clear, your job is to help clarify that communication. So she's just giving you some culture issues that you might face as interpreters. That's the cohesive device for this slide.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, moving on to cochlear implants. And that's a hot topic, the sticky situation. Some people use cochlear implants to just function as a hearing person. They don't have any ASL language, so it's speaking only. Some still sign because that's their first language, and they use hearing as their second language, or second. And some deaf, it's ASL is their first language, and they prefer that after hearing. Sometimes with the cochlear, they'll speak for themselves. But some hearing people, it may still not be clear. And you need to interact with that person to clarify what they're saying. And there's different levels. It's really not all the same. There's going to be a variety of success in cochlear implants. So, talking about WAV culture, there are many senior citizens here, and they use a lot of old signs. Oh, it's different from my generation, a younger generation. we might have to ask what they mean. And sometimes the older generation uses more finger spelling. And so sometimes it's just faster in general. Older generation might be more relaxed, more finger spelling.
She has to code switch for her own members sometimes.
So there's a variety of different signing skills. So sometimes if a deaf person is just getting into deaf culture and they're trying to learn sign language, they're going to go a lot slower. Versus the people who have been signing for a long time are going to be very fluent and very quick.
And sometimes we see deaf people use their home signs, things they learned growing up or made up growing up. We want you to know that this is not only for people whose first language is ASL, only for the deaf. We accept other people. That's a misconception. We value equality. ASL is we want it to be an equal language for all. We want to support you. And it doesn't mean that we're only going to accept ASL. For example, the president now is Steph Ewell. And she became deaf later in life. Is she completely fluent? She's not. Okay, she'll often depend on me to help her. It doesn't mean that she's bad or incompetent. It just wasn't her first language to begin with. So often the presenters for WAD will go to different places. I often will go to different presentations for WAD. But it's really her job as president. So
Go ahead, Samantha, if you got it. Right. As a late deaf individual, she has not enculturated into the deaf community yet. She didn't grow up with the culture, she didn't grow up with the norms, she didn't grow up with the values. And so she's learning, but she's not the ideal person to be the face of WAD. That's why Katie goes out and presents on her behalf. But she's still an advocate, she still works for the mission of WAD.
And she's a good person, her heart's in the right place, she's very supportive. And she's still learning her skills for her own benefit.
All right.
So right now the president is the VP we don't have right now because Steph was. Oh, that's me. The secretary. And I, grew up with strong deaf culture.
Brian Fruits.
And Brian, he's the treasurer. But he was mainstream though. But he is active in the deaf community and has experienced deaf culture. So he does have a little bit, but it's not as completely strong as someone like me. And last,
Janet Coons.
Janet Coons. Okay. And her daughter's now in the IPP program.
At MATC. I thought she. No.
She's
Maybe
intended.
she hasn't entered yet. And she grew up oral and speaking. So you can see that our board has a wide variety of communication and how we communicate with each other. Sometimes I have to sign slow. It can be a challenge, but I do enjoy this. And it will help them pick up the language.
Okay, so time to switch.